Hi, my name is Ian Gabriel Sinclair. I'm currently a college sophomore and future documentary and historical filmmaker, studying filmmaking, history, and art and illustration. What would you think and how would you feel if I told you a story about a stay-at-home mom and primary caregiver for her two young children, who also taught herself how to sew and started and operated a small but steadily growing home-based business, designing and making one-of-a-kind handmade clothing and accessories, which relied on and was growing because of word-of-mouth advertising, so she was about to begin selling her creations online. Then her spouse, the primary breadwinner for their family, started a relationship with a coworker and decided to end their marriage, but also wanted custody of their children and refused to consult with a mediator to help determine what would be in the best interest of the children, being afraid that the mediator would recommend that the mother, who was and could continue to be the children's primary caregiver since she worked at home, should have physical custody of their children. So the husband falsely accused that mother of being abusive toward the children in order to get custody by obtaining an order of protection, which forced that mother to immediately leave and stay away from their children and from their home, where she operated her home-based business and had all of her business supplies and equipment, such as her sewing machine, thousands of dollars worth of fabrics, and finished garments and accessories, which her husband repeatedly refused to give her despite her repeated requests so that she could continue to operate her business and make a living, but was legally prevented from returning to her home to get those things because of the order of protection. And what would you think, and how would you feel if you heard that the family court repeatedly refused to let that mother subpoena any witnesses for her defense against her husband's false accusations of abuse, even though the witnesses that she wanted to testify were police officers and Child Protective Services investigators who investigated her husband's accusations and could confirm that those accusations were false? So the family court also refused to let that mother enter the police reports and Child Protective Services reports as evidence in the case. Then the father's lover moved in with the father and the children a few weeks after the mother was forced to leave, and the father and his lover filed false joint income tax returns using and forging the mother's name, including a false profit or loss statement for the mother's business, even though they did not operate her business. The father also asked the family court to limit the mother's contact with her children to writing letters, and one one-hour telephone call each week, and one one-hour supervised visit each week, because he said he was afraid that the mother might try to flee with the children. Then the father had their children bring gifts that his lover gave them to their supervised visits with their mother, to show their mother, but he soon had the children's supervised visits with that mother terminated, because the mother would not stop bringing and giving gifts to her children after the father asked the people who supervised the visits to tell the mother that she would not be able to give her children any more gifts, not even candy, during the supervised visits, which was the only time that she was allowed to see their children. And the father and his live-in lover confiscated all of the mail that the mother sent to her children, and refused to give the children any mail from their mother, and refused to let the children send any mail to their mother, and also regularly snatched the telephone from the children and hung it up, and soon stopped letting the children answer the telephone or speak with their mother any more at all, because the children took the initiative to begin complaining to their mother about their father and their father's live-in lover. So the father and his live-in lover soon begin to totally alienate the children from their mother, and to continuously lie to them about her, to turn them against the mother and to make them think that their mother chose to leave them and abandon them, and she doesn't care about them. Plus, the father lied to a judge and said that the mother was abusive, and that the children's mother abandoned their family and that he did not know where she was, and that the children's mother stopped attending the supervised visits with the children, and that she never responded to his divorce papers, even though she actually did via certified mail. So the judge gave the father sole custody of their children and a default divorce judgment, which also gave the father 100% of their marriage property, including the house and everything in the house, even the mother's birth certificate, and all of her other personal belongings, business supplies and equipment and finished products, without any divorce hearings and without allowing that mother to tell the judge her side of the story. The father was the family's primary breadwinner, making about $30,000 each year as a New York State civil service employee at the time of the divorce in the year 2000. And the father's live-in lover was additionally making over $500 each week at the same place where the father worked. But the father's attorney asked the judge to make the mother pay the father almost $400 each week for child support, even though the father and his live-in lover were totally alienating the mother from her children. But the judge decided to order the mother to pay about $200 each week for child support. Then the father's attorney actually changed the divorce judgment that the judge signed after he signed it by taking out the page where the judge ordered the mother to pay about $200 each week for child support and replacing that page with the page that they requested $400 each week from the mother for child support to try to trick the mother and other people into thinking that the judge ordered the mother to pay $400 each week. Then, the mother filed a petition with the state Supreme Court to ask for divorce hearings to actually be held so that the mother could tell a judge her side of the story, including about the father's false allegations of abuse, the total alienation, and the children's complaints about their father and about their father's live-in lover. The fact that the father and his lawyer lied about the mother not replying to his divorce papers, and that they changed the default divorce judgment after the judge signed it in an attempt to trick the mother and other people into thinking that the judge ordered the mother to pay almost $400 each week for child support. The mother also filed a petition with the family court regarding the order for child support, including the fact that the father had a live-in lover who he did not let the courts know was a member of his household with an income, and about the fact that the father and his live-in lover filed false joint income tax returns using the mother's name, and that the father also had and refused to give the children's mother her business supplies and equipment, and most of the things she had previously made, which she needed and repeatedly asked for so that she could continue to operate her business and earn a living. And again, the fact that the father and his attorney changed the default divorce judgment after the judge signed it to try to trick the mother and other people into thinking that the mother was ordered to pay almost $400 each week for child support. But the state Supreme Court denied the mother's request to vacate the default divorce judgment and to order divorce and custody hearings to actually be held. And the family court ignored all of the facts and evidence mentioned earlier, including the fact that the mother was being totally alienated from her children. The family court ordered the mother to give up her business and to get a regular job, because the father's lawyer said the mother's business did not make enough money for her to pay enough child support. And the family court ordered the mother to pay an amount of child support which was based on the amount of income that the father's lawyer said she could make if she had a quote-unquote regular job. So the mother had to end her business. But instead of getting a regular job, the mother and eventually her new partner and her youngest child with her new partner became a full-time volunteer advocate for children suffering through crises and for the elderly and disabled, and full-time volunteer caregivers and hospice care providers for the elderly and disabled for the next 20 years. While the father and his new wife continued to totally alienate the mother's older children from their mother and their mother's side of the family, including the children's only living grandparent, and brainwash the children against their mother so that they continue to completely shun their mother and their younger brother who that mother and her new partner had several years after the divorce. Then the county and the state that the mother lives in informed the mother, a full-time volunteer caregiver for the elderly and disabled, and volunteer hospice care provider who often runs errands for elderly and disabled individuals who can't go out or drive themselves, including to medical appointments, that her driver's license was suspended and that she owes her ex-husband almost $70,000 for back child support for her two older children, who she was previously told that she could not give any money or gifts or even a piece of candy to, and totally alienated from for over 20 years. And the county and state then took all of the coronavirus pandemic stimulus money that was offered to the mother's youngest child, who is now a 16-year-old college student who lives with the mother and the mother's partner. And they also took all of the mother's 16-year-old son's college tuition reimbursement, over $3,000, and gave all of the money to the mother's ex-husband. What would you think and how would you feel if you heard that this is a true story and that all of those things happened to a woman here in Rochester, New York, very devoted mother, and to her youngest child who she and her partner were blessed to be able to homeschool while they were serving as volunteer caregivers, security, and hospice care providers for a disabled over 90-year-old World War II veteran, and to homeschool well enough for her youngest son to be accepted into one of the highest-ranked universities in the U.S. at the age of 14. Now, would you think or feel any differently if I told you that the genders in this true story are reversed, and that all of these things actually happened to the father, who was a stay-at-home dad and the primary caregiver for his two older children until he was falsely accused of being abusive toward them during a bitter custody dispute, and was then totally alienated from them for over 20 years? And would you think or feel any differently if I told you that that father is my father, and that it was my coronavirus pandemic stimulus checks and college tuition reimbursement that was taken by Monroe County and the state of New York, and given to my father's ex-wife for my two older brothers, whom my father has been totally alienated from for over 20 years, and who I've been wanting a relationship with, but have also been totally alienated from for my entire life thus far, except for one chance meeting and brief visit with my older brother Evan on August 14th, 2012. I have never been allowed to meet, see, or even speak to my older brother Ethan. Do you feel any differently because these things happen to a father who is a stay-at-home dad than you would if they happened to a mother who was a stay-at-home mom?